Today I'll be talking about the eradication of an invasive species. Now, the eradication of these species is not something new to the United States. In fact, even Hawaii partakes in it. They do this to help the native plants survive and thrive. Now, the same should go for humans. When we see an invasive species like murderers or rapists or drug or human traffickers, we should have the right to do the same. Hello, my name is Tabitha Mays, and today I'll be talking about why we should reinstate the death sentence. Now, it is so important to reinstate the death sentence because it helps us to relieve the amount of violent crime that comes in. It helps give opportunities for rehabilitation to other offenders, and it provides the same justice that the victims or their families deserve. So what are my credentials? Now, I've done multiple interviews with federal prison workers, including the psychiatrist. I also have experience with the effects of shootings and have had experience with being a victim of the child pornography and child sex ring because of past experiences when I lived in another state. Now, here's a preview. I'll be talking about the problem of violent and organized crimes in the United States, the death penalty as a solution, and the many benefits of the death penalty. So this is what we need to do. We first need to look at the rate of crimes. Now, the rate of murder has risen by 25%, with 3 murders taking place every day in Chicago, 2 in New York, and 1 in Baltimore. We have seen that there's 2 times the amount of child pornography and sex trafficking since 2019. Now, these facts all come from different articles, like 2020 ends as one of America's most violent years and decades from Time, child pornography prosecutions on the rise from Investigative Post, murder surge in 2020, why, by Bill, Top 10 cities with highest murders in 2020, Part 2, Insider Monkey, and Global Report on Trafficking in Persons, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Now, here is a very important quote from James P. Kennedy, Jr., who is the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of New York. It states, "What you're seeing is a visual depiction of rape and sexual abuse of a child." Now, this quote is so important because he said this while showing the actual footage of the child being abused. Now, no one really realizes it, but this is so harmful because when this is spread out, especially on the internet, it promotes rape and potentially murder. So, this is my satisfaction step. What is my solution? Well, my solution is super simple. I want to reintroduce the death penalty for life sentences across the United States, especially those serving because of murder, other violent crimes, organized crimes like human and sex trafficking, and drug trafficking. Now, here are the steps needed for my solution. Step 1, I have to get the word out, and so do you. This is easiest through social media, which has become a very popular platform throughout the years. Step 2, introduce this problem to your legislators. And step 3, go to committees and hearings. Now, this is so important because you are able to provide testimony, which can be passed to your legislator. Not only that, but you can learn more facts and info from victims or perpetrators about these cases and why this should definitely be more pressed. Visualization step. So these are the general benefits, which helps to lower the rate of crimes. It provides opportunities for rehabilitation for other offenders and provides the closure that families so desperately need, especially the victims and the victims' families, of course. Here's a nice handy dandy fact to remember. So the death penalty has helped to lower the rate of murder and violent crimes by at least 2%. Now, this fact comes straight from assessing the impact of the ultimate penal sanction on homicide survivors, a 2-state comparison by the Marquis Law Review. Another important topic to remember is that because of the death sentence and the inherent nature of death, you are able to save more money and more space, which can go into the rehabilitation of other offenders. Now, more money equals more money for addiction treatment and therapy. And more space means you have more space to put in an educational and counseling facility. Now, this comes from capital punishment should the United States maintain the death penalty, by facts on file issues and controversies, the death penalty, what's keeping it alive, from Blue Ridge Cement, the lethal injection, capital punishment in Texas during the modern era, from the University of Texas Press, 10 facts about the death penalty in the U.S. from Pew Research Center, and the death penalty in the United States and its future from Denver Law Review. Another important number to remember is 56%, which is the number of the family members and victims that were able to heal and move on sooner, according to Assessing the Impact of the Ultimate Penal Sanction on Homicide Survivors, a two-state comparison from the Marquis Law Review, the death penalty in the United States and its future from Denver Law Review, and it comes from the victim's family, of a young girl named Andrea Nicole Brower, who was 12 years old, and this case takes place in Arkansas. Now, it saw a young 12-year-old girl who was playing at a party who was kidnapped by her uncle, raped, and then strangled, and was left for dead, which she did eventually die. Now, this case saw that the uncle did plead guilty, and he was put on death sentence. But, right at last minute, he put in a testimony, which saw his sentence pushed back. Now, this caused extreme grief and overwhelming anger and sadness for the family, and they have even stated that if they saw the death penalty, they know that they would feel 100% better and would be able to start the grieving process. But with some benefits, there's always disadvantages. For example, if we don't do this, there will definitely be a rise in deadly crime, like we have already seen with the 25% of murders, which has risen since 2020. And if we also don't do it, we can take away opportunities for rehabilitation of other offenders, which means that we could prevent the society from growing and from getting better, which no one really wants. And finally, we can take away the chance for families to grieve and to get the justice that they deserve. Because the life of a murderer and a rapist, for example, of this 12-year-old girl, does not outweigh the 12-year-old girl's life which she could have lived. Finally, join with me to support the victims by putting a heart above your heart. This shows support and empathy for the family, and why we should definitely have the death penalty. Now, the death penalty is humane, and it is a simple, easy way to get rid and to fix some of the problems that we have in our prisons. It will not fix all of them, but it definitely can fix some. So please, again, join me in forming a heart over your heart to show support for the victims and the victims' families, and why they deserve the death penalty for their perpetrators. Here are some of my works cited. Thank you.